Okay, you guys, we're back with Destination Mountaintop, and we're still in our round table, but we're going to call this part two. I didn't realize that it started timing us when we were going through technical difficulties. So we're going to start back and jump back in here because this is some good conversation. So we stopped with uh, uh, really kind of dissecting what's going on with the Rittenhouse case, and Pastor Turner, we were ending with you. Did you have anything else to add to that?
No, nothing else. It's just that we have to, even though we don't like these decisions, some of them that's made, uh, we have to be confident that the right thing was done. If not, then it's out of our hands in terms of what happens to jurors who did the wrong thing. But there's no sense in burning and looting and doing all the things that we know are wrong, because I was brought up at a time when Mama would say, "You don't tear up Mr. Johnson's whatever he had over there. Don't tear it up because it's not yours." And so we respect people's property, and that's how we have to do in this society that we're in today, in these times we're in today, because people are willing to tear down what you have built all your life. Doesn't make any difference who they are. If you're black, if you're white, and you're in the way, we're gonna burn it down. And it's just not a Christian thing to do, to tear up something that doesn't belong to us.
Okay, Ro.
Okay, yeah, I just let me on the Rignard case. Yes, it's we have to accept it. One thing that we've got to learn to do in order for us to be effective as a people, not talking about race or nothing else, but to be effective as a people, nation, we've got to learn to accept things as they are. I mean, no, we don't have to accept that verdict in no kind of way. But what we've got to learn to do is control the things that we can control, and don't worry about the things that we can't control. And we'll come out and we'll be better people.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, since I got the final say, I'm playing devil's advocate. Here's my thoughts on it. I still feel like if you don't call a thing what it is and don't address the elephant in the room and address it truthfully, that no resolution will ever come. And the truth of the matter is, because this was a white boy, he was treated totally, and I think that's what threw any type of demonstrations or anything off, because everybody was stuck in the fact that this is a white boy. They actually congratulate him for what he's doing and give him a bottle of water. From there, that automatically put Black people in their feelings. Because like I said in the beginning, if it was my Black child, my Black grandchild, they would have been shot down and murdered as soon as a call was made. There's a Black kid openly carrying a rifle. There is two different sets of justice in America. You have white justice and you have Black justice. And until that gets addressed and is equality across the board, is going to always be issues. There is a racial divide in America. There is racism in America. It always has been, and it always will be until it's dealt with truth. What bothers me is every time Black people or people of color speak up, the first thing everybody wants to say is, oh, you're supposed to have Jesus, so you shouldn't do that. Having God in your life doesn't mean that you can't fight back, doesn't mean that you can't stand up for truth. Now, the reason that my people, Black people, people of color, are so quick to burn and loot, and we're saying you're tearing up your own neighborhoods. No, what do Blacks own in America? You have a certain set of upper echelon that owns something, but what do we own? And the table has always been stacked against us. What do we own? It has nothing to do with political parties, but it does have to do with a racial divide. There is a racial divide. And I'm sick of being told, oh, just accept things as they are. And we never deal with it. We never talk about it. We never admit it. That judge was the second defense attorney. He defended him better than his own team did. And for the person who bought the gun for him to end up with 3 felonies, but this little boy walks away with nothing. Oh, there's something wrong with that picture.
Something wrong with that.
Wrong with that picture.
There's a dead cat
His
on the line.
mother should have been charged for even driving her son across state line with an open carry rifle. If it was a black boy, his mama, daddy, grandmama, aunties, the whole family would have been charged for him having a gun. They would have went back, pulled up every history of violence, every charge that the mama, the daddy, the grandmama, the aunties, oh, see, this family has a history of violence. This family's been arrested. The daddy was arrested in 1902. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Let me just throw this in there.
Yeah.
One of our civil rights icons named Martin Luther King Jr. You notice that he never held any protests or marches at night. But today, all of the protests and all of the marches are at night. Why is that? It's to allow the looting and the tearing down. As Christians, as children of God, we have a different perspective of life, because Martin Luther King could have marched during the night, but he did not. And that's kind of very telling about the way he did things and being nonviolent. Also, we got to ask ourselves, why haven't we ever seen a public trial when a black man kills another black man? We had the white boy who killed 2 white men. They had his trial, but you have never seen where a black person killed another black person and you had a televised hearing. And that's because of the narrative, to stoke the flames of racism, to keep us upset, because we always get in our feeling. We'll fall back on what happened in 1921. We'll have when they had the Elaine riots, when they had Wall Street. We focus on that. But in moving forward, we have to look at how can we move forward and use what we have. And when we say this is a racist country, I just see that Barack Obama was elected twice. And so I think when we step back and kind of just settle down and start looking at things as they are, then we can use that brain power and start thinking about, now, what can we do as a country? What can we do as a people? Because we have a movement that says we need to defund the police. Well, some people say, well, yeah, let's defund the police. But when you come into my neighborhood in Pine Bluff, that's where all the shots are going off at. We need police over there. And the majority of Black people in this country don't want to defund the police because they know what's going on in their neighborhoods. You don't go in a white neighborhood, hear a lot of gunshots. It sounds like a war zone in some of these communities around here. So we have to have police. We have to accept decisions that are made and build on those decisions, and realize that 12 people made that decision, not the judge. He said things, but I mean, the other attorneys could have overruled. They could have asked the judge, but they didn't do that. They could have called a mistrial, but they didn't do it.
Wait a minute, Pastor. Okay, wait a minute. We on a limitation of time, so we
Okay.
got to get to the rest. And then,
All right.
I'm gonna let you close this one out. I totally disagree, and I guess you could put me on Malcolm X's twice removed on his mama's side, because I believe by any means necessary. And when you look at Malcolm X, he was all about building Black race, building Black pride, but he was a take it by force man. Now, you said it yourself in the beginning with these millionaires bringing in these people. Now, I have videos, and I'm so glad I saved them, because my grandson took part in the protest in Little Rock, and he marched at night, but they marched during the day. Now, check this out. When they marched during the day and at night, I have video where it was the white folks, Black face on, looking like Black people, and they were, my grandson and other people, trying to stop them from looting, trying to stop them from the violence. I also have video on my phone where the police were parked behind a building, and they were taping them, taking the bricks out to give to these white people. And when they started taping them and said, you caught in the act, look at this, they started putting the tapes back in. Now, I went through to go delete a lot of stuff. Something said, hold on to those videos, and I kept them. So what you're saying is you're still putting it on us. Whether we march in the daytime or whether we march at night, if there's another group of people being sent by white folks in power to make it look like it's us, then we're still being blamed and persecuted when it's them that's doing it. So we still ignore it, ignore the narrative, ignore that it's going on, just say it's okay. No, I'm sick of saying it's okay and ignoring it. That's my opinion. Now, we're going to let Ro close this segment out, and we're going to go to the next one. Pastor.
Okay, let me hit on just a couple things. The first thing I want to hit on is systematic racism. You know, that's why that's where we're at now. That whole trial, when they said systematic racism, that's a perfect example. You know, you had the judges, and they admitted that somebody was recording the jurors going in. So there is no what kind of threat or whatever them jurors that had got before they went in there. But here's the thing is, when you go to talking about that trial, they openly admitted that it was all kind of KKKs and all kind of everything else financing this man and helping him out, you know. But what that thing was, it was just hey, he killed 2 people, wounded 1 that was supporting the Black movement, and it's called systematic racism. That's what that went. And here's the thing else that we can never forget. It's called white privilege. That youngster was white, and he got the privilege of being white. You know, that's the bottom line on that. You know, you're not going to, like you said, you're not going to see them publicize no Black on Black crime. You're not going to see them publicize. And then take it one step further. St. Paul, Minneapolis, as you was talking about them bringing in the looters and stuff. St. Paul, Minneapolis bust them and prosecuted them. You know, they busted Mason. Now, Black Lives Matter wasn't doing this. These people was busted in. We got them red-handed. They white peoples, and they busted them and they prosecuted. Now, here's the thing what we messed up at. You know, when we go to talking about voting in the right people, now take this to heart. Now, some of the things Donald Trump did, I agree with. Some of the things that he did that I didn't agree with. You know, and as a person, I don't like it. You know, let me get that out front. But Here is the thing that man offered. When the Democrats took the House of Representatives, he told them, he said, look, y'all need a criminal. He was in particular talking to the Black Caucus.
Mm.
He said, y'all need a criminal justice reform bill. Even he recognized it. He said, if you don't go to start all these investigations of me, he said, and y'all write out a criminal justice bill, he said, I would get with the Senate and we will pass it. Well, they did exactly what he asked them not to do, start out criminal justice. It's not a criminal that's not been up there. But here goes the thing, my whole thing is, they didn't take in consideration that people's doing life that did not commit a crime. That people doing 30 years that his wife partner got 2 years probation for. You know, they didn't take all that into consideration. If they'd have sat down and took 8 to 12 months to write out a bill, you could have let some people go. You know, you could have let some people sitting up there haven't did nothing. They was picked up by some Ku Klux Klans dressed in police uniform and given charges. We missed out on a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Because what we say, how many peoples that have that much power that have messed with a whole lot of women? How many people up there with that much power have not stole a bunch of money? You know, they are all the same. When we went after that man talking about we need to impeach him, well, you didn't impeach him, so what? Them people still sitting in that penitentiary. Now, I'm gonna close with this. I know back in the 90s, when this criminal justice bill was written by our president, and it was given the go-ahead by our Black Caucus. When people like Lindsey Graham, even the old redneck out of West Goldberg was telling them, no, this is not the bill. Y'all do not want to sign this bill. But the Black Caucus, yeah, we want it. We're at the middle of a crack epidemic. We want to lock these kids away. It's what you call genocide. They took genocide off of 1-0 and put it on 2-0. They speed up the whole process, you know, with this bill. And Donald Trump knew it. Donald Trump was willing to correct this. All you got to do is leave me alone. But since it wasn't affecting them, and they think they up there doing the right thing, they think they up there doing the right thing, you know, no, you're not. My thing is, we as the people, Republican, Democrat, Independent, let me put it this way. America, we need to vote all these old people away from up there that have made a career out of this, and put young peoples in there that call themselves America, not conservatives, not liberals. You know, we've got life so messed up, and we as Black peoples are toting the burden. They hate our color. These people are snuck over here. And they said, let's give them a bunch of money. The people coming through the southern borders. They said, let's give them a bunch of money. Well, you came get us. You beat us. You killed us. You did everything else. But you don't even want to give us, you don't want to give us nothing. You know, I mean, it's systematic racism. It's written. That's what you saw in that court. So, you know, and in closing, my closing remarks on this whole thing is how we as the people sat down with Donald Trump and did a criminal justice reform bill. You would not be facing no trials like this. But we didn't do it. We insist that we need to get rid of it. We need to do this. That man finished his term and went on by his business, you know. But them are my closing remarks.
Let me say this for you close
I
it out.
see you over there itching. You itching. I see it.
The criminal justice reform bill that was brought forth by Senator Tim Scott. It was a Democrat using the party label who called it a token. Really calling him a token. And that bill could have passed, but they, like you say, they did not want criminal justice reform. We do a program called Pen or Pencil. Pen stands for penitentiary, pencil stands for education. We try to push kids towards the pencil, which is education, and against the negative behaviors that will put them in the penitentiary. But there are people who don't want success for African Americans because you're going to break that pipeline. And we need people at these prisons to make these license plates and wire and do all this slave labor, and it affects us. So we as on our watch as Black people, we got to begin to do things that we think is right for our children. We know that education is the right thing to do. Critical race theory is a scam, because if I'm trying to teach my kid about critical race theory when they can't even spell the word critical, and they're failing in reading and math and social studies and science, that's where our focus should be on. How do we uplift our kids so that they then can become productive citizens, start a business, own a business, get a great job, whatever the case may be.
Whatever they want to do.
But we let other folk tell us, this is what you all ought to be dealing with. So we bring this out. This is the Constitution of the United States. And we tell kids what your rights are. And what we call the program is Let Me Read You Your Rights. Because we know when you hear Let Me Read You Your Rights, you are getting ready to go to jail. But what this program is about, using the Constitution, is a reading program where kids will understand their rights. When they get stopped on the streets by a police officer, they'll know what their rights are. And we have to begin to get those things into the minds of children. Because if we don't do that, they're going to still keep going to prison. They're going to still keep dropping out of school. We have to begin to get engaged with our children.
Let me add that. I know we need to move on. Let me add.
That's okay.
Let me say something. Okay, we talking about the police reform bill that Pastor Turner just talked about, that Tim Scott had written. You know, Tim Scott had also written a police reform bill. You know, and I know Pastor know about it. And Pastor, you hit the nail on the head. You know, with your eyes closed. Even Claiborne out of South Carolina said about both of those bills. He said, pass those bills. That's what he was trying to encourage his friends to do. You know, pass those bills. Something is better than nothing. You got to start somewhere. You're not gonna get it all at one time. He tried to encourage them to, but you know, once again, like I can't stress it enough. We need to quit running to the polls voting for these people. You're not gonna get it all at one time. And what
we need to vote, period.
Here go the thing. Here go the thing is, since Tim Scott is Black and he's a Republican, see, they label him as a token. So I don't care if it wasn't nothing but a quarter of what you wanted. Start somewhere. And that's what Claiborne was trying to tell them about the police reform and also the criminal justice reform. We're missing out on opportunity. We're missing out on opportunity because we're too busy calling ourselves conservative and
Republican, liberal,
Well, here's what we are, whether you Black, white, blue, or green. Here's what we are. The government say your name is John Doe, and he give you a social security number. That's where you are. You're not no conservative. You're not no what. You're American. You are a U.S. citizen. And until we start putting ourselves there and quit dividing ourselves, as Pastor was saying, with this critical race theory and all of this, don't let them people dictate what your child is doing. You need to start. We need to start we need to start. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna shut up because I know you want me to. But we need to start locally. You know, they have took all the social programs out, and so people are saying that the church needs to do it. Get the church some money. get a church something to work with. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
they have took out all the programs, and you know for yourself, girl, we've been without a boys club forever, boys and girls
No,
club.
we don't have one.
And here goes the thing is, when we had not this police chief here, but the last police chief back in the late 80s and early 90s, they took all the money out the social programs here and gave it to the police department. And so right now today, our police department count for over half of our city budget. They took all the way social programs, you know, and bought tanks and these big nice weapons and stuff. And that's where we're messed up at. If you start at the local, we're gonna work our way up to the federal, but we got to start local. You know, we've got to start local. We've got to go to City Hall and say, look here, man, you took all this away. We was effective when we were doing this, but everything how we was effective. When I came up, there was a community center everywhere.
Yeah.
They not there no more. They not there no more. A child can't go there no more, you know. And they took away the boys club forever, you know. So here's the thing, here's our thing is, if we're gonna start as the people, we've got to start here local, not in whatever organization that you find yourself with locally. You know, whatever you don't invite the yes sir, no sir into your organization.
Yes.
Because you're gonna be forever ineffective. I've been there with the local NAACP, you know, where I have to just walk away. You know, so what I am saying, if you're going to be effective, you've got to have grassroots organizations that are in your community that truly won't change, and that is not scared of Mr. Billy Bob.
Yeah, you're right.
And so, and when that began to change, you know, they always hollering about the church. You know, the church need money to function. If you get a church the money, you know, and that then the church can go out and do something. But as long as your police department is counting for up around 60% of your budget, somebody got to get left out. And who you think it is? And I close with that.
Okay. We got 10 more minutes. We got 10 more minutes, but if you guys want to carry on, we can come right back when that 10 minutes is up, or we can schedule for another time, because this is good conversation. And I'm not going to just move on, because I'm a believer that you go with the flow of God, and everything that's being said needs to be said. Playing devil's advocate once again, Pastor Thompson, I agree with everything you say, but we went through a season here where churches were being funded and churches were receiving grants. But what happened was, with these little organizations, they would come up and the money would be mishandled, the money would be misused. Now we're going through a season again where people are seeing the need in the community and want to get something done. And it's going to be a fight to be funded again. But if we can stick together and do that, we can start some things again, and we can get funding for it. Playing devil's advocate again, when I see just like this Rittenhouse thing, you have people who are in their emotions and people who are thinking about the past. It's good to think about the past, but as you can see, you guys listening to both these men of God, you think about the past, but you got to think about the now and the future too. Let the past, let that frustration from the past, let that that anger about misjustice, you have to let that propel you into action now that will actually set up things of success for the future. You can complain. I can sit here all day and say, this is not fair, and look at the difference. But what are we doing to make a difference? Are we coming together as a people? Are we going down to City Hall? And I'm going to say this, and I don't care who don't like it, just like Laney Harris. voted right back again in the office. I asked him, what are you doing? You come to my neighborhood. The only time I see you is when it's time to vote. Tell me what you're doing. He told me a story about a man and a dog and how he got the dog back from the man.
Mhm.
I said, no, sir. I want to know what you're really doing, what you're voting on, what you're standing on. As a matter of fact, let me offer you my platform and we can do a Zoom meeting so you can tell the people your heart. He got nervous, started shaking, and said, well, I don't have time for that. And he went on. Why do we keep voting him in the office?
You know, you got to ask yourself a question as a people. We got to ask ourselves, why do we vote anyway? I mean, if nothing is going to change, if you're going to have the same neighborhood looking like it's looking without without putting out though getting rid of that bad stuff over there. So why are we voting? And I wrote some things down. It's because many Black people are fenced in and fenced out by the Democratic Party. They're not allowed to complain about their community because then they're going to send people over to try to marginalize you. Many Blacks are afraid to speak up. And we don't need people who are just going to agree with the situation.
Like he
We
said,
need
a
people
yes
who are going
man, a
to
yes
question.
man.
They're going to have to question some of the decisions that are made at City Hall. Remember, if a person don't vote, they will label you and say, well, you ain't Black because you didn't vote for a Democrat. But these are just tactics and dupes that the folk do to try to keep us under control.
But Pastor,
let me say this right here. We have, and I think Pastor Thompson touched on this earlier. We have down through the years asked for reparations for our people. We have never gotten anything. And now you're having people to walk across the border and not vaccinated, and nobody says anything, and then you're going to give them $500,000 because their children were separated from their parents at the border. Well, what about the times when we were separated from our parents? Our forefathers were separated. But you got the people in control who just get our vote. We get no return on our investment, and then we don't say a thing when they mess up. HBCUs have just lost $43 billion. $43 billion, just lost it. But I don't hear the Black Caucus speaking up and saying, hey, you're hurting our community because you're taking money from education for Black people. They don't say anything. So we cannot go back and elect that same person just to say, I voted for the Democrat, I feel good about that, and I voted to Republican. Now, we have to vote on issues, and the issues should be getting rid of some of these dilapidated housing, doing something about crime, helping our young people, infusing money into economic development so we can start businesses, not just for us to say, well, we voted and we go back home.
But Pastor, I have to agree with Pastor Thompson on this now. It should not have anything to do with Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, because when I voted this year, I actually went and I studied my candidates. Some candidates I voted on was Republican. Some candidates I voted for was Democrat. I did not go by party. I went by what they stood for, what their agenda was, what their record was, and what they had to offer my community. That's how I voted. It didn't have anything to do with Republican or Democrat. And I think that's what messes us up is when somebody that's Republican, oh, well, you know, if you vote Democrat and do this, you're crazy. If you vote Republican and you do this, you're crazy. No, it's about the issues and about the person's track record. We got 2 minutes. I'm gonna let
I
Rose.
said, we ought to be in a God party, the God party, the God party.
Yeah. But wait a minute now. You opening up a whole can of worms.
I know it. We got another
There
section.
is a group of people, an agenda with the God thing. See, everybody takes it and they manipulates it to an agenda. Oh, that's trying to slowly creep in there.
Now you did vote education. When you educate yourself about
Yeah.
what's going on, you don't vote for a particular
The party, you
school
vote for the
party.
person.
You vote for the person. But
Let me get this
the
in.
2
Let me
minutes.
get this
I'm
in.
gonna let Roosevelt
yeah,
have
go
the
ahead.
last 2
Go
minutes.
ahead, Rev.
I know we're finna call. But look here, when I was a little boy, I remember, I never will forget the first time I went to vote. My daddy took me over to Washington High School. I was so excited, man. I was so excited. And so we were walking up to the school. I said, Daddy, who am I to vote for? He said, everybody got a D by their name. But you know, it wasn't until after I got out the military and I came back here and I got to looking, I got to thinking, and I had got married. My wife was in a life and death situation. And I went to a Democrat. And I said, man, we ain't got no insurance. My wife needs this much. And just so happened, we was at the store after I had went talk to this Democrat. It was a Republican in there. And I talked to him. And when I told him, he told me, he said, Roosevelt, he said, put your wife in that car. He said, and take her to the University of Arkansas, and they're going to be waiting on you at the ER. So it don't matter. It don't matter. You know, you've got to get people, just like the criminal justice bill, when Linda Graham and old Bird then was telling them, hey, man, black people y'all don't need to get these judges kind of authority. You know, it don't matter. You know, you gotta vote for you. You gotta vote for somebody that's gonna come over there and say, look, we're gonna tear down these old houses.
All right, you guys, we got 60 seconds left. We're gonna end this segment. I know everybody has something to do. We're gonna try to schedule again probably next Tuesday. If you guys are willing, we can get back together again and continue on because I think this is pertinent conversation that the community needs to hear. So